Hello. Hello.
Yes, I can speak. Great. Okay, great. So I can say a few things. Sorry, I just didn't know whether anyone hears me or not. Great. So Sanjay is going to do an introduction first, or shall I share my screen already? Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Dialogues, Edition 17 Diversity. A heartfelt thank you to all the architects and designers for having made their time from your busy schedules and grace the event with your presence. Now, I would like to call upon Sanjay sir to introduce our keynote speaker for the second half.
Is Emma online?
Yes.
Hi, Emma. Can you see
Hi,
us?
how are you doing?
Good.
Good.
And thank you very much for all of you who don't know. Emma is, for her, it is 3 a.m. in the morning right now, and she still agreed to do this.
This is what architectural photographers do. We're up all night. So like, and I have kids. So it all works out great.
Wow. Okay, so quickly, Emma is an award winning Canadian Bulgarian photographer based in Vancouver, recognized as one of the world's top architectural photographers. She has photographed for Bjark Ingels, Kengo Kuma,
Thank you.
Omar
Thank you so
Gandhi,
much.
Patkau Architects, Perkins and Wills, and Olson Kunde. And what she says in her talk is, in a world oversaturated with polished, predictable imagery, how does one image stand out? How can a single photograph spark curiosity, capture imagination, and bring global attention to your work, which is what we're waiting to see from you. Over to you.
Great. I'm gonna share my screen. You guys have to bear with me because I'm terrible at all of those things. There you go. Hopefully you see my screen and I'll start my presentation. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you and for having me and especially for introducing this topic of diversity because this is so important at the moment. And I wanted quickly to explain what I'll be doing in the next 20 minutes. I'll reflect on the architectural photography and diversity. And I wanted to talk about my personal experience, why diversity in architectural photography matters now, creating diversity in my own work. Of course, we have to think about the architects, like displaying their vision and diversity through emotion. And I started this presentation so many times because it truly made me reflect on what diversity in architectural photography means today and how can we achieve it. But before anything else, I wanted to begin with what it means to me personally, because that personal touch is important and how it has shaped my career. Because for me, diversity began when I first combined two photographic worlds. And you're seeing some old images. They're not the best resolution, bear in mind, but they're done in the 50s, 30s. Because my background was actually not architectural photography, it was photojournalism. I studied photojournalism, and my dream was to be a Magnum photo agency photographer. You can see those are some of the Magnum agency photographs. And Magnum was created in the 30s by Robert Kaplan and Ricard Bresson. And for me, the most important thing was to record and to witness and to share moments and events. And that dream did come true. I earned an internship at Magnum Photo Agency in their Paris office. And for 6 months, um, I walked through those doors of the office, met my idols, photographers I really admired, and photographers I studied in history of architectural photography and photojournalism, and we discussed ideas with them. And my job as an intern was going in the archives and pulling prints for various articles and publications. And back then, the archive wasn't digital. So every day I handled thousands and thousands of photographs by the world's top 80 photojournalists. And I remember going out on the streets of Paris after my work days, and all I could see is images. Life became photography. And you can see those are some of mine mixed together with the Magnum ones. And that experience taught me one of the most important lessons of my career. The eye is a muscle, it learns by seeing. And in those 6 months, I learned more than I did in 4 years of university. Because the whole concept of the decisive moment by Cartier-Bresson is when your heart, the mind, the eye, and the lens align. They become one. And this is one of the strongest forces in my life to this day. I strive to capture moments when everything falls into place, when an image makes you stop and feel. And we need it especially now. And I'm adding here some shots of Fan Ho, who's one of my favorite photographers. Imagine if we do architectural photography like this, so people can really feel it and experience it. And in Paris, I also learned restraint. We were given only three 24-frame rolls of film per month. Can you imagine 72 frames? This is it, before some of the top photographers in the world reviewed. And think about it nowadays in the digital era, where students learn pressing the shutter thousands and thousands of times a day. In Paris, every click of the shutter mattered. And that discipline shaped the way I still photograph today. If I don't feel it, I just don't take it. And during the same time, I visited Villa La Roche by Le Corbusier. And so I watched people go through the space, and I thought, how incredible would it be to combine architecture and photojournalism? Because at that point, nobody was photographing with people in the shots. Most buildings were photographed empty. So I wanted to merge those two styles. And this image for me, this is done in the 60s. So it represents that exact combination. It is an image by René Bory, a Magnum photographer taken in Sao Paulo in Brazil in the 1960s. This is an architectural photograph in many ways, but what makes it powerful are the men on the roof, the sense of story, of mystery, and similarly this image. I talk about it always because this is the Empire State Building, Elliott Erwitt. But do you know what? I think this image surprised us because we have seen thousands of photos of the Empire State Building. But to this day, this image always stays in my mind as the best image of this building. It's the most memorable shot. And why is that? Because the photographer has created something very important. And it is the sensation of, I want to be there. I want to be her. I want to view the building from that perspective. Because to make a justice to a building, we need to kind of let go of the control, explore every angle, every condition. And I have an artist that I really love, Julia Cameron, and her quote kind of stays in my mind quite a lot. I might be wrong with some of it. The creative process is a process of surrender, not control. Mystery is the heart of creativity, that and a surprise. So imagine if we surprise the world, we've achieved our goal. And why diversity matters now more than ever is because we're literally living in a sea of images. We see thousands of images every day. So 5.3 billion photos are taken daily, 61,000 a second, and 14 billion shared on social media every day. So how does your project stand out? How do we not get desensitized? When do we stop scrolling the images? You know, we all do it. Element of surprise, managing to catch that unique moment and element, telling the story. And the photographers have to have full understanding of the business goals of the architect we're working with. What is your target market? What is your desired publication? What is your desired exposure? It is no longer a photograph, it is a strategy. And I think a lot of people still don't understand this, but we need to keep pushing for this. Because that uniqueness, everybody thinks that it comes from artificial intelligence and perception. Super perfection, but it's not. Because recently, if you think about it, and I'm sure you have this in your circles as well, people want to photograph on film. They want to listen vinyl. They want to bring back the craftsmanship. And it's all part of the same instinct of showing somehow that we can live slower, and we need to live slower. And I wanted to share a few examples of colleagues of mine because I really feel passion in their work, and I always think that we should start with our peers. We should never start with ourselves. This is Fernando Guerra, and this image is incredibly impactful for me. Because do you feel the moment? You feel the wind, you feel the sun, you feel the morning light, the sensation of being there. Architecture is presented through the angle of the viewer. It's very impactful for me personally. And the next one, this is Houghton and Crow. This building got photographed immensely. And a year later, they went in and photographed in fog. And those images came out, and this building was relevant again. It felt new. So I always feel that element of surprise is important. And the last one is Nick Leno. He's a fellow Canadian. The unexpected. We always show buildings from the glory side. It always has to be the glory. It has to be the best angles. But you know, talking to some of the journalists in the publication, they want to see a little bit more of the hidden angles, the alley. And in this case, like, I mean, he went on the train tracks to actually get that unique angle because that juxtaposition again creates diversity in the way we're photographing. And this is my work, like I showed my colleagues, but I wanted to show you two images. One of the images is my the oldest architectural record cover, and the next one is my most recent, which is this year. So this image is of a community pool and Olympic training facility in Canada by HCMA. So I planned for a very early morning photo shoot. And luckily, the Junior Olympics team was doing training that day. So of course I went and I asked, and they gave me 2 jumps. Talk about pressure. But this image became my first viral image. And eventually, of course, my dream and every photographer's dream, architectural record cover. And the editor sent me an email afterwards and said, Emma, we all love it. Everybody loves it. But there was one complaint by a reader that it's too photoshopped. The clouds, he said, are too low. And the truth is, what they were seeing is a shadow of a tree in front of the building that is right on the translucent panels. And that reaction reminded me that when an image makes people wonder, it has incredible power as they want to see more. And this is what we want. And this is my latest architectural record cover, which talks about another diversity, breaking the traditional rules of architectural photography. When I was in university, I was taught never to put people in the center of an image, as it will stop somehow the perspective. Never to photograph into the sun, because the sun has to be always behind your back. And always avoid the lens flare. And I have to tell you, I have ignored all of that, always. I have tried to make my own rules, and I think the people that are successful try to make their own rules. And this image was done at Portland Airport for ZGF Architects. It was taken midday because they wanted me to emphasize the light coming through the mass timber ceiling. And the whole idea was to showcase that sensation of walking in the park between the trees. I'm going to jump here. We use 70 millimeter tilt chip lenses. I'm sure everybody has seen them, everybody who works with professional photographers. And the whole idea is that the lens tilts up and shifts side to side instead of us doing this with the camera. To keep the vertical straight, very important thing for architects. But those are spherical lenses, and the flare is incredible. And here, this is what you're seeing. I was in the perfect composition, the perfect location. I couldn't back up more, but the flare was unavoidable in that moment. So instead of me thinking, okay, I'm going to move away, which is what we're taught to do, I shaded half of the lens, and the rest of the flare created those rays of light. So nothing here is artificial. This is just a moment. And to be honest, that moment changed how I approach light, both natural and artificial. And it pushed me to experiment more, to diversify the way I light, because very often we have to create light where it doesn't exist. This is a good example. This is one image, by the way. It's not an image cut in half. They're not two images. A lot of the architects are trying to bring in nature into the homes. So for us to photograph the courtyards is a huge challenge. So many reflections. In this specific image, I used strobes lighting from the upper floors to actually light the bamboo and to create those shadows in the hallway around the courtyard. I also wanted to tell a story because we always have to tell some sort of a story when we're photographing. And I used the kids, and I wanted to use one to showcase how the built environment can be enjoyed and how the nature could be enjoyed with the little girl going through. And this is a similar image, but I'm going to go very technical here for you. We used the strobe from above, but we made sure that the courtyard, which is in the shape of a box, is brighter inside than the environment reflected in the glass on the outside. Because I was standing in a white kitchen. Can you even imagine that? Can you imagine the reflections that are happening around? So this is a bit more technical, but it shows you can create different images by trying to imagine what the image could be to tell the story. And those experiments remind me that diversity can be technical too, and it's all about your own curiosity and problem solving. Because if we stay in our comfort zone, nothing really actually ever happens. And I wanted to talk about the architect's vision and how we need to reflect it. Because another form of diversity comes from adapting your visual language to somehow reflect the architect's style. Because we often talk about a photographer's signature look. I don't agree with that. Because collaborations are so powerful, and understanding the vision of the architect you're working with is really a key because it manages to diversify the way you look at the world too. For example, this is Shibara and Desert Rock. I worked with Studio Paulo Ferrari, Oppenheim Architecture in Kila in Saudi Arabia. They're incredible resorts, and I have photographed resorts for years. And when photographing hospitality, we often do very wide angle shots. And Paulo especially wanted me to do intimacy, to express luxury through details. And I was very skeptical because when publication chose the images, they chose the close-ups, not the wide shots. And this is a good example. I don't know who the photographer is for this one, unfortunately, but this is a bar with a very wide angle lens. And this is the moment where, for me, I couldn't see the bar, I couldn't see the architectural details. And this is the same bar. I'm going to go back and forth so you can see it. Those were the covers of Hospitality Designs and most of the other publications. And it's showing the details make people want to see more. And of course, big reaction were moonshots because you don't expect that specifically in the desert. But I thought, why not? Like after a 17-hour day, why not just go around and photograph moonscapes, really? But it's worth it because people reacted really, really well. And this is very different, completely different example, but Lecky Studio in Vancouver wants me to photograph in rain. And I said, no, why am I supposed to photograph in rain? It's hard. Everybody's aiming for beautiful sun. But I have to tell you that those more darker emotional images resonate deeply with every angle. And even the Mexican architects are doing this a lot more often at the moment. They're photographing really moody. And even the sunny days are now muted with filters. And talking about different, this is Arizona. It's HK Associates. They invited me to photograph after a hurricane, or kind of in the middle between the hurricane. Dark skies, really, really impactful, stronger images, because in the desert, we always photograph in the sun. So we could diversify by using unexpected lighting conditions. Always do something different when the location is expected to be more blue skies and beautiful and clear. And then when you do storm images, they got published again everywhere. And since then, I photographed storm. I want to show you those too because they're quite interesting. I photograph storms and fog and everything I possibly can. This is St. Regis Canal in Mexico for Edmonds Architecture. And I photographed a 4-hour lightning storm. The resort hated the images because, of course, like, why would you do this? But the architect loved them, of course. Um, it was total chaos, especially for this one. But look at the lighting on the mangrove. And think about it. I am with a metal tripod running around in a mangrove full of crocodiles and with a jaguar running around a few hours before that. So it was it was a little bit dangerous, but I kind of really enjoyed it. And the last one I wanted to show you from that series is Kangokuma. Uh, I photographed this building in every possible way. But we had that beautiful foggy morning when the shade showed the best. And I jumped out of my car going to another shoot to be able to take the shot. And he loves this shot the most out of all of them, I have to say. And I wanted to bring it in full circle where I began with somehow the union of architecture and photojournalism. Because for me, and I'm noticing all the viewers on social media and everyone who's looked at my images, people love powerful images that show how people inhabit a space. Capturing that human element, the decisive moment within architecture, creates those really resonant images. And this is the Dawando Bourse de Commerce in Paris. And I've gone so many times to photograph it in the different exhibitions. The light changes constantly, patterns shift every time. But what I love the most is that I found a new story between the architecture and the people. And especially, I love the image on the right, the couple looking at each other and everybody else reflecting that, like taking photos or looking at themselves. Um, and from this natural approach, I started with Portland. If you think that those are candid images of people walking around, we have 14 models in a not yet open terminal. So we have to actually make sure everybody's in the right position. And this is especially strong because I'm standing on a cherry picker while there is a plane landing behind me with somebody in my ear on a phone, just telling them exactly where to position the people. So many of those images could be natural, but if you can create stage images that look like this is kind of one of the biggest strengths of photographers as well, to actually diversify by understanding their location. And my closing thoughts are about recent studies.
I would now like to call upon the visionary Sanjay Puri, curator of dialogues and principal architect of Sanjay Puri Architecture.
Much more, but that's why information is more precise. So to showcase diversity, we've taken 5 residential projects, all located within the same temperature, same climate locations, out of which 4 are in Rajasthan and 1 is in Gandhinagar. Very, very similar, hot climates, brief winters, and in each case, the way contextual responses have been derived and addressed are very diverse in nature. So starting with the Mirai House of Arches, which is in Bhilwara, we did this house during COVID, and based on what materials were available within this location, Vedic bricks made from the site itself. That's the plot, which is a 500 square meter corner plot within a huge residential complex of 200 bungalows. So these are the Vedic bricks, all the labor sourced from around the site, and lime plastered walls inside. The footprint of the house based on the client's needs was 9,000 square feet split in 3 levels. And these are the temperatures that we are all aware of. So how does one take care of this excessive heat during 8 months of the summer when temperatures are in excess of 45 degrees? So we created this whole envelope around the building, derived from traditional architecture, where sheltered walkways were part of every architectural heritage, palace or house in Rajasthan. Still closer. So because of the small site, we had a very restricted amount of open space. It was only 4.5 meters. So we convinced the client not to make a compound wall and extend out till the pavement so that it becomes 9 meter on the 2 corners. This house has a footprint which is reasonably small of 3,000 square feet, but within that small footprint and the simple rectilinear plan, which is based on Vastu because of the client's requirements, the entire play is within the volumes. So there are 3 different volumes as one traverses this house. So a dining space which is 2 floors high, a living space which is 1.5 floors high. So at every point in the house, even though the footprint again is 3,000 square feet, is smaller than this hall that we are sitting in, you keep seeing these different volumes as you go past. And what this envelope has done is created a much cooler internal space in the house at every point. And each room has these interstitial spaces to spill out on. The best compliment came from the client after they'd used the house for a few months, saying that, you really addressed our problems. We have 3 generations, but each one has their own space, and then there are these common spaces where everybody meets. So we've got our individuality as well as we've got our community spaces. The next house is one that we've done in Jaipur. It is located within this neighborhood, which is very close to a large army tract, but our house is within a very dense neighborhood of largely villas. So this is the site. There was, in this case, an existing house, and the family had grown larger, so a part of the family was to move towards this new house. Those are photographs of the vicinity just to give you an idea as to what kind of architecture surrounds it. So sometimes there is actually no context in terms of the architectural character. So the first thing when we saw this site was these amazing trees which are 3 floors high. and that literally governed the entire footprint of the house. So these are the trees, and how the house was used earlier is that there was a large central garden where the house used privately, and they had made this separate garden which was only for outdoor parties. So that's why these trees are only along the boundary here, and there's a clear distinction. So the new house is located exactly between these trees on the northern side of the site. But when you see the requirements that they needed with 8 bedrooms totally, a health club, a study space, and all of that, the house would have been 4 levels high. And the moment you go 4 levels high, you cross the 30 feet high trees. Thereby, there would be no privacy between the two houses. So we decided to take the entire house below ground and create a subterranean flow. And then this courtyard is extended out towards the southern side, giving complete natural light, even though there is what one would term as a basement, but it's basically a subterranean flow. And this courtyard then facilitates natural cross ventilation and keeps the house cool. So these are images from the courtyard looking out towards the existing trees on the southern side. The second, so this is, you can see the proximity of the house and the living spaces towards the existing trees. So you come out of that bustling street outside, you enter this house, and then each portion of this house is actually surrounded by trees like this. So you really don't know where you are once you're in this house, just surrounded by nature, the kind of spaces. And then, this is the way the volumes were articulated, level by level, each one stepping back. And in response to the sun direction, on the south, east, and the west, the house is completely screened. So this does two things. It reduces the heat, and at the same time reduces the noise from the arterial road that this plot sits on. And the third important factor is, again, to address the climate and the hot summers, there are interstitial spaces created for every room at every level. So once you're within the house, you have enclosed space, and then you have sheltered space where you walk out from in each space. And none of this is visible to the outside, completely private, with different kinds of seating areas outside, sunken, at the level, in the garden, by the garden, in the courtyard. So that's the way the house steps back, creating terraces at every point. The roof is done with lime tiles, which are locally sourced from Jodhpur. These tiles, believe it or not, in 40 degrees you can walk bare feet on them. And this tile costs less than 20 rupees a square foot. These are all locally available materials. So these are cross sections which show how the ventilation is achieved by passive cooling. So this is the house as it sits along that arterial road, complete privacy to the inner spaces. So you actually don't know what you're looking at, but when you're within the house, each part opens up very interestingly to the outside, to nature in every single part. Very simple interior palette, exposed roofs in concrete, and minimal interior embellishments. So at every point you get this totally different relation from the inside to the outside. Again here there are 3 generations living. This is the third house. This is the first time we actually did something which was totally traditional. So the client, when he came to us, actually asked us to build a miniature Umaid Bhavan. It took a long while to convince him that, the Umaid Bhavan cannot be replicated, so let's do something that suits the kind of site that you have. So this house is based on the principle of creating a very large courtyard within, but not just that. It has a series of external courtyards wrapping the entire building and creating spaces that one can walk out to from every part of the house, which are completely sheltered. The entire house is built in actual stone, and Believe it or not, when it's 42 degrees outside, you don't need an air conditioner inside in any part of this house. This is the way the volumes relate. There's a volumetric movement, step by step, with 4 different kinds of heights within the house. So everything is seen as this interesting cuboid composition of solid stone walls, arcades, and stone screens. So that's the walkway that leads you to the house from a sheltered canopy. And all of those pergolas are also real solid stone, 3 inches thick. This is the central courtyard that punctuates the entire space and again is cool throughout the day. You got very interesting light patterns which change constantly wherever you're in the house at whichever time. Now there'll be a small video which will actually explain the spaces in a much better way. So you'll get to experience those spaces. Nothing is staged, and these are all real. These are the people who actually use the house. Thank you, thank you. So, The interiors of this house as well as Mirai were both done by Nina and Tanya. And this is the last of the houses. This one is in Gandhinagar. It was actually designed and constructed 10 years ago, and after which the client decided to go into some businesses and he just left the house like this. So RCC was lying complete for literally 10 years before the interior was done, and the interior was finished a few months ago. So this is a totally different language, which again is based on how the site was. So this is the location, and here you can count 9 existing trees on this site, and we've literally placed the house between those 9 trees in an interesting way where each room is overlooking those trees. In one case, the tree is actually going through the deck, and all the garden is on the northern side. So these are cross sections. Once again, here, because we did not want the house to look like it's 3 levels high, we've taken a subterranean level and opened that up with a courtyard. So the house from the outside just looks like 2 levels, very grounded, and at the same time has enough spaces based on the client's requirements. So this is the house from the northern side facing the garden. Large overhangs up to 16 feet deep protect the inner spaces from harsh sunlight. So you get indirect light in each part of the house, and mostly, generally what architects would love to do is create a house that is visible, or create architecture that is visible from everywhere. Here is actually hidden by the trees in all parts. So you never get to see this house complete simply because of the way it is located between those 9 existing trees. So this is the sunken courtyard, which allows light into the inner sides, and these are all the spaces that are overhanging, creating lots of sheltered space for every part of the house, overlooking a large garden on the north. So this is an aerial view showing all those existing trees exactly the way they were when we started the house. Once again, this is the sunken courtyard with the trees existing. So these trees are literally, you can touch the branches from the balconies. It's that close. And that's the tree that goes through the deck, which he managed to retain. So very interesting philo spaces in every part of this house with sheltered volumes all throughout. So the idea everywhere is to create this nice open sheltered space so that one can feel like you can just walk out into the open, but you're not exposed to the harsh sunlight. In this case, the interior has been done by Nina and Aisha. Very, very simple, very subdued, just a touch of color, celebrating the space as it is. That's the subterranean space. So even here, there's complete natural light coming in from the staircase and from the sunken courtyard. Tiny movie on this. So you only see the house in glimpses like this between the trees. There is no side from where you can see the entire house together. So that was four houses. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Four houses in the same kind of climate with completely different design languages to address the same common factor of the excessive heat that is prevalent in all of these cases. The last project is an apartment building. So here, when we were given this apartment building to build in Udaipur, which has got so much character, you study and you look at all these buildings when you're traveling the city from any side, the chances are that you will pass one of these. Of course, right now we are on the outskirts, so you're not going to be seeing any of this unless you go into the city. These kind of elements that have been part of architecture all through, and then what has happened in the last few years. Very plain, simple, not that there's anything wrong with these buildings, but it's just that when you look at this building, it could be anywhere. It doesn't look like it belongs to Udaipur or to Rajasthan. So he said it's going to be a tough one. How do you make an apartment building which is high rise without copying domes and moldings and everything, still make it look like it belongs in some way, in some sense to this city? And then the site and its restraints. So you have a square site which has got fabulous views of the Aravali on both sides. But then you have some kind of crazy FSI. So this of course is the sun and wind direction and how the site is located. And this is the restraint that we had to work with. So you've got the required open space to be left, and then you have a high FSI, and then you have a 70-meter height restriction. So it's literally like somebody telling you, this is the rectangle and you need to build this rectangle exactly to this height, and that's the only way you will be able to consume the FSI that is available on the plot. And because this is a developer project, there is obviously no getting out of that. So we've split this into 4 quadrants to create cross ventilation with 4 apartments a floor, each one 4 bedroom, and then created double height balcony spaces on all 4 corners. In addition, there is a whole skin of balconies that wraps the entire building to reduce the heat gain into the building. So there are 3 kinds of buildings, 3 kinds of balconies to the apartments. One which is deeply recessed with a railing and is open, one which has screens that you can move, and then one which is 2 floors high. So the 2-floor high ones form the 4 corners. And then each one of these is created with a jali screen that protects the inner spaces from the excessive heat prevalent in Udaipur. So there's an odd floor plan and an even floor plan that alternates. The screen is derived from one of the screens that is used in the Udaipur Lake Palace. And this is the site layout with the 4 apartments per floor. You can see it's very, very dense, but by cutting into the core, we managed to create cross ventilation and natural light for every single room, including the bathrooms, which unfortunately is not the case with a lot of buildings being built in India right now, especially in Bombay, where bathrooms and kitchens are deriving light through ducts, which essentially means that there is no light, there is only forced ventilation. So this is the building as it is completed a few months ago. Very simple look, but at the same time a very sculpted look. And most importantly, it is pertinent to the climate. So these apartments again need very less air conditioning compared to normal apartments because they are all shielded from the outside. That's a rooftop pool. And that's the corner of the building. These jali screens are made out of Indo wood, which is a particle board which is created out of rice husk. So it's also a very sustainable product. And a tiny movie on this, and that will complete the presentation.
This site is located in a rapidly urbanizing area in Udaipur, Rajasthan, surrounded by hills on all four sides.
Sorry, you'll have to listen to me explain it 2 times.
The 21-story apartment building that we've designed has 4 apartments to each floor, each one forming a quadrant of the total square plan that the building has. With this, each apartment looks out in 2 directions towards the hills in the surroundings. Every room of every apartment opens out into balcony spaces, so there is this envelope created of semi-sheltered spaces throughout the building facade, and this forms a very important aspect in reducing the heat gain in response to the hot summer climate of Udaipur. To create privacy and further mitigate heat gain, these sheltered decks have perforated screens which allude to the traditional architectural elements of the heritage of Rajasthan, where stone screens were used in palaces and homes through centuries to reduce the heat gain inside. So each apartment is planned with 5 sheltered balcony spaces. 4 of these are 10 feet high and 1 is 20 feet high. Alternate balconies are screened, and the screened balconies too have sliding screens which allow one to open those screens. So now you have a choice whether you want to sit in a completely open balcony, completely shielded balcony, or a semi-shielded balcony. The screens create this very interesting light and shadow pattern that constantly changes throughout the day. So the design of this building capitalizes on the views that are available in all 4 directions, giving every single user the choice of 2 different views from their apartment. While this is a high-rise building in a rapidly urbanizing area of Udaipur, it takes cognizance of the climate, it alludes to the traditional architecture of the region, thereby making it contextual to the surroundings.
Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Okay, very briefly, we shall go to some. Okay, these are the students who are watching us from across the country right now. So they've all been sending us pictures. So these are some of those. And that's Ridhima for those of you who don't know her. So in case the students are still online, thank you very much for participating in dialogues and seeing all of these presentations. I hope you liked them. Thank you. Thank you.
There are many pictures, but why is it going so slow? Anyways. Okay. There are many more pictures. It's okay. So in a gist, a lot of them were there and you've inspired many and many and many, and we continue this. It's just the beginning. Okay. How did this happen so fast? Okay, I'm not going to speak a lot because I have an itchy throat. I have broadcasted this 10,000 times to many people in this event and gathered a lot of sympathy. Like, oh, are you, like, you're not well? How are you doing all this? It feels so good. I'm going to miss all of this attention once I'm back home. Back home, I'm an ordinary person to my people. It's okay. They don't get us. So, so as we close this edition, I have this it feels just like this, just moments ago we had this buzz of anticipation of welcoming all of you, me shaking hands with you and saying welcome to Dialogues, and the joy of familiar faces walking in. And now, poof, the 3 days of creative chaos has flown by swiftly. So as we close this edition now, I have that feeling, that familiar tug you have between joy and nostalgia. The kind of feeling that you have at the end of a festival. And the time has already come here to say goodbye, when I was just beginning to get to see diverse sides of many of you. And as I said, Dialogues is not an event for us, it's just a celebration. And it was this breathing, living experience to witness how diversity influences or shapes creativity. And I officially declare that from tomorrow onwards, you will not get my endless messages. Okay, unless some of you have grown fond of me and want some more. I'll continue for however long you want. All right. So, okay, on a serious note, a heartfelt thank you to all of you for bringing your own unique voices and energy to this event and making this edition so special. A special shout out to all the visionary designers and partnering product companies for making this event a collaborative success. And my deepest love, gratitude, respect to Sanjay and Nina. For they are our unwavering anchors of this platform. Their love, their patience, their relentless pursuit of excellence has made Dialogues evolve edition by edition. And last but not the least, my team. Come here. Everyone, I want my team here. The powerhouse of diverse talents, minds, madness running this machine. My source of strength and energy. Come on. The loudest round of applause. Congratulations, you have pulled off this edition with pure brilliance. I would just like to quickly introduce you. Okay, Arjun and Radhika, come forward. These two are the ones who have started the first Shagun. Shagun, like they are responsible for getting all the partnering companies on board and servicing them with passion. Then we have Namita and Brinda. And even Radhika, come again. They must be popular amongst the designers. They have been sweet talking to you. Then I have Vishesh. Okay, and there is Shreya. These guys have coordinated with all the deans and professors. If anybody wants to get into an architecture college, they know them all. And of course, he's been my go-to guy. He's been like for all the coordinations for the event to run smoothly so that not one aspect or one team, they all stay balanced. So I think he's helped me. He's like my shadow in this event. Then Nikhil, Brishvi, Amit, come forward. Come forward, come forward, come forward. They are the operations team, only 3 people. The entire operations of the event, the fabrication, the brands, the incoming, the logistics, everything, only 3. Yeah. And then I have Shruti, the new joinee, but done a great job. And my brother, if I'm not there, he can run the show. Shantanu Prabhu. Thank you very much, and thank you. That's all.
As we conclude, a heartfelt thank you to all the architects and designers for having made the time from your busy schedules. Dialogues Edition 17, Diversity, presented to you by Pidilite, our key sponsor, with Artis as the headline partner, Flexstone as the supporting partner, Eka Pidilite as the Lux and Wood Finish partner, Page 2813 as the iconic partner. Also, a big thank you to all our partnering product companies, A-Class Marble, ARR Court, Dimor, Focus Fitness, Grandeur, Jaipur Rugs, Kajaria Tiles, New Artex, Siemens, Stone Lamp, the India Fitness Connect, Veneto, Vox, The World of Stones, Zydex. A big thank you to Anthem Home, a manufacturing and finishing partner for signature product at Dialogues events. Last but not the least, we invite you to the finale party, Flex It Up by Flexstone. We await your presence at the poolside lawn, followed by a party tonight at 9 p.m. After the second round of meetings, you can relax, dress up in your most stylish party wear, and get ready for Flex It Up by Flexstone. A well-curated East India's culinary treasure awaits you as you groove to the live percussion music and Berlin beats. At the poolside lawn, post the meetings, we will gather at the champagne bar to pause, take a breather, and re-energize for the evening. A celebratory Prosecco bar by a key sponsor, Pidilite, and Lux partner and wood finish partner, Eka Pidilite. We will now have the second round of meetings. Tea and coffee will be served to you during the meetings. You may now all proceed to the respective meeting spaces as per schedule. The Dialogues team will guide you to your meeting locations. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you.
Once we are done with the meeting, nobody go to their rooms because we'll take a group picture at the Prosecco bar. One group picture to banta hai. Okay? It should be a fridge